rules for our session today. My name is Nuria, and I'm joined with Akila, Chaitanya, and Vaishnavi. All of us are part of the FRT team, and we're here to answer any of your questions related to your FRT journey or if there's any part that you're stuck at. Please note this is not an AI mentoring session, so we will not be answering questions that are specific around AI technical inclusion in your projects, but we are here to answer any other questions you may have around the registration process, your self-learning, project evaluation status, etc. We're here to answer any of your questions. So with that, we are here till 6 p.m. So you can come in at any time and you can ask your questions. This session is also being recorded and it'll be uploaded on our FRT YouTube channel and shared with you after the session ends today. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions. If you could please raise your hand one by one, and we'll ask you to come off on mute and ask your question. Alternatively, you can also post your question in the chat, and either myself or any of my colleagues will answer your questions. But I do request that you stay on mute unless you've been asked to come off on mute. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Students, you can raise your hand and ask the questions if you may have any regarding the portal, the project, anything. If you have, the entire team is here, and this is your chance to ask the question.
Students who have just joined, this is just an FRT office hours or question and answer session. So it's essentially a 1 hour dedicated to answering any of the questions that you might have about the FRT journey or if there are any issues you are facing with the portal. The entire FRT team here is available to answer any of your questions. Um, So please do raise your hand, or you can post your questions in the chat as well. This meeting is also being recorded, and it'll also be available on YouTube after the session has ended. Also, for all of you to also know as an announcement that this is going to be our last FRT office hours or question and answer session for this calendar year. We are going to resume only again in January, around the middle of Jan, and a fresh engagement calendar will be sent out to you at that point. Um, so this will be your last chance to ask any questions to the team before we break for the winter. So please do ask your questions. We are available here, so you can raise your hands or post your questions in the chat.
Nuri, we do have a question regarding offer letter. If we would be providing an offer letter, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So I was just answering on the chat, but Vamsi, we don't offer any offer letter. If you complete the FRT program, you receive an internship completion certificate. So you can use that certificate and showcase it to any um, job opportunities. It's an accepted certificate for that. But there's no offer letter that we provide.
Also, Vamsi, the certificate that you get, you do have get credentials along with it, and you can verify those credentials. You can share the credentials with your potential recruiters so that they can get it verified as well, and that would perhaps prove the legitimacy of the entire course that you have done.
So we have one question from Yuvraj about how to start the internship projects on FRT. So Yuvraj, for you to be able to start your internship project, the first thing you need is to have claimed your GitHub Student Developer Pack. After you've claimed your Student Developer Pack, you'll get access to $100 free Azure credits for you to then be able to build your project on the Azure portal. This is a requirement because this is an Azure-based project. So if you don't utilize Azure services in your projects will get rejected. So when you come onto the project page, and I'm just going to share my screen so I can take you through this content as well. So if you come onto the project page, you'll see the list, the project checklist. Make sure that you've completed all of the learnings before you start your project. Make sure you click on the project guidelines document. You can see an entire end-to-end list of all the guidelines and requirements that are needed in your project for you to be able to get it approved. You can choose to do a project either as an individual or as a group. If it's a group project, you can have a maximum of 4 people, including yourself, and all members of a group need to be registered on FRT. So if you're trying to add somebody who hasn't registered on FRT, you won't be able to add them to your group. Once you select what type of group you want to do your project in, you then have to complete a project synopsis. So, a project synopsis requires you to choose an industry type for your project. So, we have 5 different options that you can choose for the industry type. It can be either fintech, earth, or sustainability, edtech, health, or lifestyle. You can choose any one. We then ask you to input a project title. What is the problem statement or opportunity you're looking to address through this project creation? What is a project description? We then require, and this is a mandatory field, we require you to ensure that you've used at least 2 core Azure services and 1 Azure AI service. So, total of 3 services need to be included in your project for it to get approved. And then after you've completed your synopsis, you'll click on the submit button, and then the project submission tab will get activated for you. So until you submit your project synopsis, you won't be able to see the project submission tab. Once the project submission tab opens up, you have to submit 3 different links. The first link is your project link, which is your GitHub repository URL, which should also include the README file. Your README file needs to also include screenshots of not just your project, but also of the Azure portal. Which services have you used, and how are those services connected to your project and to each other? Next is the project demo URL. This is essentially the URL that you have created of your project itself. And finally is the project demo video URL. This is essentially a video of you demonstrating to us your project, demonstrating to us the Azure portal, and showing to us how you have utilized all 3 Azure services successfully. After you've inputted and shared the correct working links in all of these 3, you will click on the I hereby declare that all the details are correct. Make sure that your project has not been copied or duplicated from any template from anywhere else, and click on submit. After you submit, your project will then be under evaluation. Evaluation can take up to 15 days. So we do recommend you submit your project well before your deadline date. So you have enough time for the evaluation to be completed. And in case you have to do any resubmissions because your project got rejected the first time, you still have enough time to do your resubmissions as well. So I hope that helps answer your question. We also have an end-to-end video on the platform navigation. We'll also post that in the chat so you can take a look at that and refer to it whenever you'd like. Students, please go ahead and ask any questions if you have any. You can raise your hand, you can post it in the chat. We're here to answer your questions, so we'll still be available for another half an hour. So please do make the most of this time as well. Students, so we did get one query about a project deadline having been lapsed. As my colleague has mentioned, please do write to our support desk at support@futurereadytalent.in. And every time you do write to our support desk, make sure you're also providing a valid reason as to why you're asking for an extension. If you don't provide with us a valid reason, your application for that deadline extension can also be rejected. So there's no guarantee just by writing in to our support desk that you will be guaranteed an extension to the deadline. So just be mindful of that as well when you write to us. To answer this question, Moise, about an update, I'm not sure from whom and where have you gotten the update because static web apps is still valid and it's still there in the core Azure services. So even if I were to just share my screen right now and show you on the project page, if you go to core Azure services, static web apps is still very much valid and accepted as part of the FRT program. So I'm not sure from whom you have gotten the update. If you could share that with us, I'm not, it wouldn't have come from FRT.
I think Nuria is asking about the static website, and now I think he's not asking about the static web apps. I think let me answer to Moise. Moise, like
Yeah, please.
still the static website we accept it, but you need to customize it, like, and you need to change the things over there. Not taking some template, static template, website template, and keeping it over there and uploading to the Azure and saying that project is done. Customize your template with some good functionalities or some unique functionalities and make the design changes and everything. We do accept it, but if you copy paste it without changing any content on the static uh, templates over there, we'll not accept it. I think it's clear for you.
Okay. Okay, that means we can actually use it by customizing and making editing. So that is
Yes,
possible.
yes,
So
you
we
can
can
take the
use the
you
static
can take the yeah,
website with
yeah,
customization as well.
yeah, you can take any templates whatever you wish it, but you need to add new features, customize it, and you need to create your own content over there, not as is like creating something and posting it and uploading in the Azure. It's not acceptable. We need to see your original work over there.
Okay, so after customizing, we can actually submit a static website as well with using two Azure services and one artificial intelligence service.
Yes,
Correct, sir?
yes, that's true, that's true.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you for the clarifications.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So we have one question about a student who is asking that they have emailed support regarding an extension to their project, and does that impact the Azure credits that they get as part of the GitHub Student Developer Pack? So these two are separate things. So if you're asking for an FRT extension, that doesn't affect your GitHub Student Developer Pack. So if you have redeemed your Azure credits in April, you do not get a fresh set of credits when your project deadline date gets extended. They're two separate things. You get a renewal of your Azure credits every 12 months. So if you have already utilized it and you have not been able to submit your project, then you need to wait for that 12-month period to end for you to then again renew your GitHub Student Developer Pack and again get those $100 free Azure credits. The $100 free Azure credits are used for you to build your FRT project. So your FRT project needs to be hosted on the Microsoft Azure portal, and you need to add services to your projects through the portal. So every time you add a service to your project, you are required to utilize some amount of Azure credits every time you use a service. So if you don't have those free $100 Azure credits, you won't be able to utilize any services in your project itself. And FRT is an Azure based program, which means if you haven't utilized any Azure services, your project will get rejected and you won't be able to graduate from the FRT program. So I hope that helps answer your questions as well that is coming in the chat. So some students I know have just joined. We have the last about 15-20 minutes left of today's office hours or open question answer session. You can ask our FRT team any question or any issues that you might be facing while going through the FRT journey. Um, just to again make the announcement that this is the last FRT office hour session for this calendar year. We won't be having another one until middle of January next year. So this is your chance to get any questions or doubts cleared. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hands or you can post the questions in the chat and we'll answer your questions. Moise, just a question. Are you a student or are you asking on behalf of a learning partner? Because we don't have like any batches as such on FRT. So I'm trying to understand where this question is coming from. So, Preetham, to answer your question, if you've submitted your project, it is on queue, and our evaluators are going to be completing the queue by the end of this weekend or Monday morning latest. So, you will get a revert on your project status in a few days. So, Shrikar, you can use your personal mail as well to register for FRT. There's no requirement that you have to use a college mail ID. In fact, we recommend you use a personal mail ID so that you have access to all FRT resources even after you've graduated. So you don't lose any content or engagement as well. So, Moise, if you are speaking on behalf of a student, we require that students actually attend this session. So unless you are authorized from the student, for which we would need some sort of confirmation from your side about that. But this is for students only, this session. So please do write to our support desk, support@futurereadytalent.in, explaining exactly what the circumstance is and why you are speaking on behalf of a student. Because even the projects that are submitted, we want the students to be submitting those projects. There we aren't allowing anybody to submit projects on behalf of a student. That will result in termination of the student's account, and the certificate will be withheld as well. So please do write to us so we understand exactly what the situation is.
Students, just one more clarification. We would take maximum of 15 days to evaluate the projects. But for this week, we will try to complete the project submitted for the last 10 days by this weekend. So Pritham, your project will also be get evaluated. I could see that it was submitted 2 3 days back. So it will get evaluated very soon.
Thanks, Akila. And it's for all students as well. That like your evaluations, if you have resubmitted it or submitted it for the first time, you will get a response by the end of this weekend or early next week. So just hold tight. Evaluators are working overtime to ensure that the 15-day limit does not get crossed. Shrikar, you cannot register with a different mail ID and different phone number because it's still the same person. So we cannot have two accounts for the same person. So as we mentioned in the chat, please do write to our support desk, support at futurereadytalent.in, asking for an extension. Most likely, 98% of the time, you will get a project deadline extended. But you need to write to our support desk. Without writing to our support desk, we can't give you an extension. So please do write to us first, and don't create a new registration with a different mail ID and different phone number, because that would essentially be illegal. And every student is allowed only one account. So if we find out one student has two accounts, we will terminate the other account as well. So students, we have the last 6 minutes of today's session. If you have any questions, please do raise your hand or post it on the chat. This will be our last session for 2023, and we will resume with these FRT office hour sessions in January of next year. So please do ask your questions. At 6 p.m., we will be closing today's session. So Chaitanya, we've gotten a question from Srikar, who's asking if he's doing a project science or machine learning related project. Can I keep my Jupyter notebook link, or should it be deployed in a web environment? So Akhila or Chaitanya, either one of you, if you would like to answer that.
Shrika, that's fine. If you keep your Jupyter notebook or whatever the things environment you are doing the project, but we need to see that that output of the project and your GitHub or README file is completely full with information. with attaching the video, like how do you have done, like suppose if you're using data science, like some algorithms of machine learning, so try to explain like exactly why you have been used, what you have been used, so that will be fine for us. But we need to see that, like exactly what you have done on the screen of it. I think is clear for you, Shikhar. Shikhar is clear for you.
Shika, you can respond in the chat itself if audio is not working. Okay, I think Chaitanya might take a, a little bit of time. But students, it's the last 2 minutes of today's session. So if you have any questions, please do ask us while we all are here on the call with you. After which, we will resume these FRT sessions with the team only in January. So if there is anything left from your side, please do bring it up now. Okay, great. Since there seems to be no other questions, we can wrap up today's session for the year as well. So thank you, students, for joining today's FRT office hours. I hope all of your questions got answered. And thank you to my colleagues Chaitanya, Akila, and Vaishnavi, as well as Saikaran for being a part of today's call. Students, if there are any more questions that come up as you complete your FRT journey, please do write to us at support@futurereadytalent.in. We are available at all times to be able to answer any of your questions. So, with that, thank you so much. Have a great, happy holidays and happy new year, and we'll resume again in the next year.